Well, hello everybody, and welcome to LA Dodger Report. Did you hear the news today? The Dodgers have now won 2 games in a row against the first place Arizona Diamondbacks, and they are starting to claw their way back up to self respectability. Right on, Dodgers. They won this afternoon by a score of 5-2, and that's a very good news. But that's not the main reason why we're here today. The Dodgers are now going to be off to play in Mexico. They are going to play a weekend series against the Padres in Mexico, goodwill tour kind of thing. And naturally, the Dodgers are going to be pulling Fernando Valenzuela out and trotting him around in hopes of good public relations and many tickets and merchandise sold. Well, Dodgers, I think this would be a great time for you not only to use Fernando to drive up sales and show, look, we once had a Mexican player. I think now would be a good time to salute the best Mexican player that you've ever had and retire number 34. And before we talk much more about retiring Fernando's number and why I think it's important to do, we're going to celebrate these Dodger wins with a beer review. We haven't reviewed a beer in a while now, so we're going to celebrate the Dodger victories 2 in a row, and we're going to pop out a sampler today. This is Guinness Nitro IPA. This should be an interesting beer. Guinness, it looks like everybody now is getting in on the IPA craze. Even the Bloody Irish are breaking with tradition and brewing an IPA. Well, right on. Let's see how they did. I was looking at the beer label here. 5 different hops that they pulled into this beer. Did you pick that up? Did you pick up on that little nitro action as I popped it? Let's see what we get in our can, and then we'll talk a little bit about Fernando. You know, when they brought Fernando up, he was the youngest Dodger ever called up, and they brought him up at the tail end. Woo, look at the foam. They brought Fernando up at the tail end of the 1980 season. They put him in the bullpen. He wasn't an immediate starter. And Fernando delivered 17 2/3 shutout scoreless innings. So that was great news. Fernando, 1981 was the real year for Fernando, though. Here's our pour. Look at that. It's a thick-looking beer, creamy-looking, that hazy amber color. The foam on top, the head on top there looks very creamy, very thick. It looks more smooth than like a light foam. It looks actually substantial. Not much in the way of smell. It's a calm smell. Not much there. Fernando got a surprise start in 1981 when Jerry Royce came up injured. All right, so Fernando gets the opening day ball, and he went on to pitch an 8-0 opening to his season. That's 8 wins and 0 losses straight with an ERA of .50. 8 games and an ERA of half a run. Madness. Complete madness. Speaking of that, let's see how this beer tastes. It's got the definite Guinness flavor. Very low on the hops. I think the number was 44 IBUs here. So the hoppiness, and what I mean, they've got five different hops there, but it's low on the hops sharpness. But it is there when I look for it. It's like really subtle on top of that Guinness kind of a dark, creamy flavor. I like this. Oh, very smooth. Note how that thick head sticks, that thick veil sticks to the glass. As I said, very substantial. It's got a nice aftertaste, that very distinct, slightly honeyish Guinness aftertaste. Um, Kind of like a honey mixed with a bitter, but I like it. It's a really interesting flavor. Getting back to Fernando. Fernando went on by the end of the 1981 season. Fernando had 11 complete games, most innings pitched by any pitcher, 192 and one third innings, and the most strikeouts, 180 Ks from the year 1981 until 1987. No National League starter won more games than Fernando. And El Toro was the first to ever win the Cy Young and the Rookie of the Year in his first season. So that's a pretty good way to start out. And as I said, in that run, 81 to 87, 6 years, nobody won more games than Fernando. This is a very pleasant beer. I really enjoy it. The hops are very balanced with the Guinness flavor, neither overpowering the other. Very smooth aftertaste, really pleasant. I like this beer. This is good stuff. Not heavy in the flavor, and it doesn't feel heavy in the drink itself. I think this is a 5.0, 5.0 ABV, so not very high, but a really pleasant beer to pass the time and drink with friends. Fernando, proficient with the bat as well, won 2 Silver Slugger Awards. In the 86 All Star game, Fernando struck out 5 consecutive American Leaguers. He tied a record that had been held ever since Carl Hubble did it back in the 20s. In 1990, Fernando threw a no hitter. Now, how about this? Fernando threw his no hitter. It was the second one of the day. The first no hitter was thrown by old friend, former Dodger, Dave Stewart. Fernando and some of the guys watched the no hitter in the Dodgers clubhouse earlier in the day. After the game, Fernando told the guys, "You watched a no hitter on TV. Now you're going to see one in person." And Fernando went out and threw a no hitter, backing up his words. Now, those are the kind of stats that Fernando put up and the kind of baseball legend that Fernando put up. But he was also very important to the community. And before Fernando came around, Dodger Stadium was pretty much ignored by the Mexican American community. Sure, there were fans, but lots of folks in the Mexican American community in Los Angeles were bitter over what happened to Chavez Ravine. You probably know the story that Chavez Ravine was a Mexican American community that was leveled in order for Dodger Stadium to be built. Several families were forcibly evicted on live television by state and police authorities, and that left a bad taste in a lot of folks of Mexican descent in the community. Many people swore they would never set foot in Dodger Stadium. Fernando completely changed that. He brought the Mexican and Mexican American fan base right to the steps of Dodger Stadium and made it a place to come and see baseball and not a corporate entity that destroys neighborhoods. Fernando changed that single-handedly. Now, Fernando didn't just change things for baseball in Los Angeles. Another reason why Fernando's number should be retired is he brought up numbers across the country. Every stadium that Fernando pitched in, he rose admission an average of 13,000 seats every time he pitched. Nobody brought more fans to baseball. Not Babe Ruth, not Mickey Mantle, not even Jackie. Nobody brought more fans like Fernando did. He rose attendance records and attendance money throughout baseball every time he pitched. You know how the Dodgers love to run around touting 3 million minimum, at least 3 million every year that they bring to the stadium? Do you know who started that? Fernando. Fernando began the string of consecutive 3 million attendance marks to Dodger Stadium. Baseball stats, community hero, raised revenue throughout the National League. Everywhere he pitched, he brought fans to the game. When they sent a scout out to look for a pitcher, he specifically had the instructions, I want the Mexican Jackie Robinson. And that's exactly what Fernando was, the Mexican Jackie. It's time to retire number 34. It's time for that legendary number to take its rightful place up in the Ring of Honor at Chavez Ravine. Besides, if not Fernando, should we just continue waiting for them to retire Benny the Jet's number? Peace.
If you have a sombrero, throw it to the sky.